So first thing I need you to understand is that your company hired you to do a job and set a value to it. Whatever you decided and agreed to get paid, right? That's the value set on what you were hired to do. So the first step in this process is to sit down and write out everything you were hired to do, every single thing that was on that original job description. And now I want you to create a second column. And in that second column, I want you to write out all the additional things they now have you doing. So think about all the additional projects, tasks, routines that they've had you incorporate into what you do above and beyond what you were hired to do. And that might take you a little while to think about. You know, for a lot of people, I say, go through your day and jot everything down. What did I do all day today? And then look at it and say, well, what on this was not on the list originally? And this might take you a couple weeks until you figure it all out, but eventually you're going to have a list of additional things you've been hired to do. Then there's a third column. That's going to be where you say, here are some ideas of some additional things I'd like to do if I was given a raise and a promotion. So this is where you start to become strategic and show that through the work that you've been doing there, you've identified additional opportunities where you could create value. And that's what this is all about, my friend, about you creating value. Because they didn't hire you because they like you. I mean, sure, they like you, but the primary reason they hired you is because you were going to save or make them money. You were going to solve problems, alleviate pain. That's what the job description was about. If they didn't have that person, things were going to get worse. So what you're doing right now is figuring out, okay, what did they hire me to do? The value they expected of me for that pay rate. What's all the additional value that I've been creating for them that wasn't part of the deal? And what's even more value that I could see creating for them if I was given that raise or promotion? Because the way you get more influence is by rising up in the ranks in an organization, as by being seen as more valuable. So now once you have this document, things that you were hired to do, additional things that you've been doing, even more things that you could be doing. Now I want you to think about how much time you spend on all of these things. So go back to your list and say, okay, how many hours a week do I spend doing the things that were expected of me? How many hours a week do I spend doing the things that above and beyond? And how many hours do you think I would need to spend to do these additional things? And I'll talk about that why in a moment, because if you tally that up, that's going to be way more than the hours that you're supposed to be working. You're probably working more hours than you should already just with the existing stuff. And then if you add on the additional stuff, that would be more than the, 40 hours, I'll just say, if that's what you're expected to work. But you want to have those numbers ready. Now, once you've done that, you're going to schedule a meeting with your boss and you are going to sit down with this document and say, I wanted to show you something. I was assessing my work and how I'm creating value for the company. I really wanted to make sure that I was exceeding expectations. And I wanted to show you what I came up with and see if we could talk about it and see if you agree or if you think there's some areas that I can change. So here are all the things I was hired to do, and here's how many hours a week it takes me to do them. Here are all the additional things that I've taken on, and here's how many hours a week it takes me to do those. And then here's some things that through my work, I've realized I could also be doing for you. And this is how many hours those take. Those are more complex tasks. I'm curious what you think about, because I would love to do those higher things for you, those things that I've realized could be even more valuable. But as you can see, it takes up a lot of hours in the week. So I'm curious whether or not there's some things I could, take off my initial workload in order to do these additional things for you. So why are you having this conversation? Because in doing so, you are showing and reminding your boss how much you contribute. And influence in an office is all about how much you contribute. You're going to have more influence if you're seen as somebody they can't live without. So sitting with your manager and your manager realizing, wow, if this person left, not only would we have to replace somebody to do all the original job description, but we'd also have to replace them to do the additional things you're doing now. And now that you've pointed it out, it'd be really good to have somebody doing these other things as well. And we don't even have anybody doing that right. So you're helping the manager see your impact, which is another word for influence. This is the way you do it without having to brag in front of the whole office, right? And try to posture and take credit for things. This is you self-assessing, going in and sitting down with your boss and saying, here's the value I create. I want to create even more value for you in the organization. How can we figure that out together? Now, notice nowhere in there did I even suggest that you said you want more money. But what could come out of that? If they say, wow, you're right, we'd love to see you doing these things as well. The conversation can turn to, well, I'd love to do that, but that would be a bigger role. What would the compensation look like to be able to take that on for you as well? See, so there's an opportunity there to build that up also. But I think it's important to understand that having influence in an office doesn't mean you have to be the most outgoing, extroverted person who speaks up all the time. I know a lot of very influential people in offices who have done an excellent job of working directly with their boss, making sure their boss understood their value and got to a point where the boss would not want to lose them. That's the kind of person you want to be.